You ever have that weird moment at a coffee shop where a total stranger starts talking to you, and 5 minutes in, you're somehow telling them about your childhood trauma, your last breakup, and why you can't eat gluten after 6 p.m., and later you walk away thinking, what the heck just happened? Yeah, we've all been there. But let me hit you with a hard fact before we go any further. According to behavioral studies, the average person experiences over 200 manipulation attempts every single day, and most of them come straight from that little device in your pocket. That's right, your smartphone. Those innocent little notifications. That TikTok scroll you swear will only last 5 minutes. It's all part of a system designed to hijack your emotions and make you feel before you think. But it's not just the tech giants playing this game. Nope. While you're thinking you just met a really friendly person, chances are you just walked right into a classic manipulation tactic. And no, it's not always some super spy in a trench coat at it. Could be the charming barista, the guy in your DMs, or even Karen from accounting who always wants to grab lunch when there's office drama brewing. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something that's been hiding in plain sight, the psychological blueprint behind seduction and manipulation tactics. And trust me, this goes way beyond romance. This is about how people knowingly or no-to's your own brain chemistry against you to get what they want. You see, there's this sneaky little formula that's been used by everyone from CIA operatives to modern catfishers on Instagram. It's called the hormone, emotion, logic trap. And once you understand it, you're going to start seeing it everywhere. But first, here's a hard truth. Your feelings lie to you. A lot. Ever bought something ridiculous online just because you were in a good mood? Like that $300 self-cleaning water bottle that you absolutely knew would change your life? Yep, that's dopamine at work, my friend. And just like that, people can trigger the same chemical cocktail in your brain to get you to trust them, open up, and sometimes even empty your wallet. And it's not your fault. This is how we're wired. Our brains crave connection, validation, and let's be honest sometimes, a little bit of drama. The trick is learning to spot when those natural instincts are being used against you. In this episode, we're not just going to expose these tactics. I'm going to hand you the tools to spot them in real time. From casual conversations that seem too perfect to that hot stranger who just happens to love all your favorite bands, we're diving deep. And stick around because later I'll reveal a real-world CIA tactic so sneaky that it makes James Bond look like a rookie. And yes, it involves Taylor Swift. So let's jump into the science first, because the moment you understand why your own hormones are setting you up, you'll never look at a chance encounter the same way again. Ready? Let's do this. All right, let's get into the messy, slightly embarrassing truth of why your brain, this beautiful, squishy powerhouse sitting inside your head, is kind of a traitor when it comes to decision-making. See, we all like to believe we're these logical, rational creatures. You know, cool, calm, collected, like we're out here making decisions like a boardroom CEO. But in reality, your brain is more like that overly dramatic friend who goes from "I'm fine" to "my life is falling apart" in under 3 seconds. Let me break it down for you. Every time you meet someone new, your brain does something called a threat assessment. It's like a mini homeland security situation happening in your head. Are they safe? Are they dangerous? Should I trust them? Should I run? But here's the kicker, it's not doing this with logic first. Nope, it starts with hormones. Your brain's got this little chemical cocktail shaker back there. And as soon as someone makes you smile, compliments your shoes, or, God forbid, shares the same love for those pumpkin spice lattes you swore you'd quit, boom. Dopamine hits. You feel good, safe, connected. And when you're feeling good, guess what shuts down? That critical thinking part of your brain. And it doesn't stop there. If the encounter feels just a little exciting or unpredictable, like, whoa, did he really just wink at me while quoting Taylor Swift lyrics? Bam, now you've got a shot of noradrenaline. That's the chemical responsible for excitement, a little tension, a little danger, and your brain loves this drama. Now you're not just feeling good, you're curious, maybe even a little intrigued. You tell yourself, I'm just having fun, while your brain is quietly muttering, yeah, and we're about to make some highly questionable life decisions, friend. Here's where it gets dangerous. Because if you don't recognize this pattern, your brain will convince you that what's happening is totally logical. Ever hear someone say, I just felt this instant connection, or it just made sense in the moment? Yeah, that's not fate talking. That's chemistry, literally. Let me give you a real-world example. Remember those times you were absolutely convinced you needed that $1,200 Peloton bike because you saw one ad with a super fit model smiling through her workout like she's having a religious experience? You didn't logically need that bike, but the ad made you feel good. It promised a new identity, stronger, happier, healthier. And boom, just like that, your logic department packed its bags and went on vacation. The same exact process happens in social encounters. People who want something from you, whether it's your time, money, or trust, don't start by asking directly. They start by triggering those hormones. Make you laugh, share a common interest, drop a subtle compliment, and then they sit back and let you fill in the blanks with logic that supports their agenda. This is what we call the hormone, emotion, logic trap. And trust me, it's a trap even the smartest people fall into. You know why cult leaders, narcissists, and toxic partners are so effective? It's not because they've got some secret Jedi mind trick. It's because they understand this biological process better than most people. And they exploit it over and over again. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, but I'm a logical person. I'm way too smart for that. Oh, really? Let me remind you, there's an entire billion-dollar marketing industry built on the fact that you'll order DoorDash for the third night in a row, even though your fridge is full of healthy groceries. That's not logic. That's dopamine, baby. And here's the real kicker. Your brain isn't doing this to hurt you. It thinks it's helping. See, biologically, humans are wired for survival. And back in caveman days, survival meant sticking close to people who made you feel good and safe. Fast forward to today, and suddenly that same survival instinct is convincing you that Chad from Bumble who wears too much cologne and says crypto one too many times is totally relationship material. So what's the lesson here? You can't fight this with willpower alone. You have to start recognizing the game while it's being played. When you feel those butterflies, pause. When something feels too perfect, ask yourself, am I reacting to how I feel or to actual facts? Because here's the truth. Manipulators don't take control of you in some grand, cinematic moment. They take control in small, subtle ways by making you feel just a little too good, a little too fast. And that's the moment you need to wake up and reclaim control. Coming up next, we're going deep into the exact tactics used by CIA operative Sand. Trust me, they're not all about dark alleys and code names. Some of them happen in the most ordinary places, like your favorite coffee shop. Let's break it down. All right, let's talk about the real pros of manipulation, the folks who turn this into both an art and a science. And no, I'm not talking about your overly dramatic ex or that friend who only calls when they need help moving. I'm talking about CIA-level manipulation. Yeah, it's a thing. And once you hear this, you'll realize that some of these tactics aren't just for international spies. They're being used every day by regular people, at work, on dating apps, and yes, even by that super friendly guy at your gym who just happens to show up every time you're on the treadmill. So, how does the CIA approach this? Simple. They don't start by asking for information or favors. That's amateur hour. They start by making you feel something. Remember that hormone emotion logic trap we talked about? Well, the CIA has mastered this process so well, they could write a romance novel and a con artist manual all in one. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're a CIA operative, and your mission is to build trust with a high-value target. But this isn't James Bond stuff. You're not sliding across casino floors in a tuxedo. You're just a regular person trying to create a safe space in someone's mind. Step 1. Information advantage. You never walk into an encounter blind. The CIA knows more about their target than the target knows about themselves. Favorite songs? Check. Emotional triggers? Check. Childhood insecurities? Oh, you bet they've got that filed under highly exploitable. This is where that famous Taylor Swift example comes in. If the target is a diehard Swiftie, guess who's suddenly rocking a Taylor Swift t-shirt and casually humming Shake It Off while waiting in line at the coffee shop? That's right. And why? Because it instantly signals, I'm safe. I'm one of you. Now, let me ask you, have you ever met someone who seemed weirdly into all the same things you love? Same obscure Netflix series, same favorite vacation spots, same oddly specific stance on how pineapple absolutely does not belong on pizza? Congratulations, you may have just met someone running a low-key version of a CIA playbook. Step 2. Trigger a hormonal response before you even open your mouth. Forget pickup lines or awkward small talk. The CIA teaches that you should trigger a positive emotion before words even come out. Wear something relatable. Play music they love. Help them pick up something they dropped. Classic small hero moment. It's all about creating tiny wins for their brain's pleasure center. Most people mess this up. They charge right into conversations like, "Hi, I'm Andy. Can I buy you a drink?" Instant red flag. Instant threat assessment. And you're already losing. Instead, CIA operatives wait for the look. That brief moment when the target notices you and subconsciously categorizes you as safe or interesting. That's the window. That's when they strike calmly, casually, like it's the most natural thing in the world. Step 3. Deploy the emotional Trojan horse. Once the target feels good and safe, now it's time to introduce emotion. But carefully, this isn't the time to trauma dump your life story or ask for anything big. You start small, find shared experiences. Build what they call a micro-connection. Oh, you're a Taylor Swift fan? My daughter's obsessed. I only survive car rides because of that Red album. See what happened there? Not only did you validate their interest, but you subtly dropped in something that makes you look trustworthy and safe. You're a parent. You're obviously not some creepy dude lurking for ulterior motives, at least. That's what their brain thinks. And now, we've reached the final phase. Logical justification. At this point, their brain has already flooded with dopamine and noradrenaline. The feel-good train has left the station. Now their mind starts writing its own little narrative. This person just gets me. It's fate we met. Maybe I should trust them with that little secret. Here's where it gets really dangerous. Because at this point, they think they're making a logical decision. But really, they're just trying to justify how good you made them feel. Let me give you a modern spin on this. Ever notice how influencers on TikTok or Instagram sell you stuff? They don't start by saying, "Hey, buy this protein shake." No, no, no. They start by sharing a super relatable story. You know those days when you just can't get out of bed and your to-do list is a mile long? Boom. Emotional connection. Then they show you how they finally found the solution, and magically, that solution is a 70 collagen-infused mushroom tea blend that totally changed their life. And before you know it, you're 70 poorer and sipping what basically tastes like hot dirt, wondering how you got here. That, my friend, is the CIA Playbook at work, just rebranded for Instagram. So, what's the takeaway here? If you don't slow down and recognize the pattern positive emotion first, emotional hook second, logical justification last, you'll keep falling for the same tricks. Whether it's love, friendship, or the world's most overpriced tea, the formula doesn't change. And here's a little bonus lesson from actual spy training. Your last impression is what people remember, not the first. So while you're stressing about how awkward you were when you first met someone, manipulators are focused on how they leave you feeling when they walk away. Remember, this manipulation isn't about controlling every moment. It's about creating one powerful emotional memory that sticks. And that's what most people get wrong. Up next, we're going to explore exactly how these emotional states, creative, connected, and collective, make you uniquely vulnerable at different times in your life. And more importantly, how to recognize which state you're in before someone else uses it against you. Stay with me, this is where things start getting personal. Justification last, you'll keep falling for the same tricks. Whether it's love, friendship, or the world's most overpriced tea, the formula doesn't change. And here's a little bonus lesson from actual spy training. Your last impression is what people remember, not the first. So while you're stressing about how awkward you were when you first met someone, manipulators are focused on how they leave you feeling when they walk away. Remember, this manipulation isn't about controlling every moment. It's about creating one powerful emotional memory that sticks. And that's what most people get wrong. Up next, we're going to explore exactly how these emotional states, creative, connected, and collective, make you uniquely vulnerable at different times in your life. And more importantly, how to recognize which state you're in before someone else uses it against you. Stay with me. This is where things start getting personal. Let's talk about why sometimes you're totally unshakable walking into a room like you own tanned. Other times, someone just smiles at you and suddenly you're agreeing to things you know you don't want to do. Like signing up for a 6 a.m. hot yoga class when you hate sweating before. That, my friend, is the sneaky work of your emotional energy state. And whether you realize it or not, you're always operating from one of three: creative, connected, or collective. And each of these makes you vulnerable in completely different ways. Let's break it down. First up, the creative energy state. This is when you're in your "I'm unstoppable, leave me alone, I'm busy creating my empire" phase. You're writing, building, designing, making magic happen. You don't want distractions. You want freedom. In this state, you're least likely to fall for emotional manipulation unless, and this is a big unless, someone offers you a shortcut to your goals. Oh, you're writing a book? I know a publisher who's looking for fresh talent. Or my favorite, you're building a brand? I have a mentor who could totally accelerate your growth. And just like that, even in your creative high, you're vulnerable to promises that shortcut the hard work. Because let's be real, who doesn't love a fast track to success? Now let's move to the second one. Connected energy state. This one is dangerous. And I mean, hide your credit card in your heart kind of dangerous. This is when you're craving closeness. Maybe you're feeling a little lonely, missing deep conversations, or just want someone to really see you. In this state, even the smallest act of kindness feels huge. Someone holds the door open and suddenly you're like, maybe he's the one. If you've ever texted your ex after 2 glasses of wine and an emotional rom-com, you were absolutely in a connected energy state. No judgment, we've all been there. And here's the manipulator's favorite part. They can sense this state before you even open your mouth. The way you linger in conversations, your body language, how quickly you respond to DM sits like a giant neon sign flashing, "I'm open to connection." Finally, we have the collective energy state. This is when you're all about team spirit. You're volunteering, building communities, standing up for a cause. You feel most energized when you're part of something bigger than yourself. Now, this sounds like a good thing, and it is, but here's the vulnerability. People can exploit your desire to serve. Ever been guilted into donating to a charity you didn't really research? Or overcommitted yourself to yet another group project because you didn't want to let anyone down? That's the dark side of the collective state. Manipulators love finding people in this state because all they have to do is position themselves as the greater good. And you'll bend over backwards to help them even if it's totally draining you. So, why does this matter? Because when you're aware of which state you're in, you can pause and ask, am I making this decision because it's right for me or because I'm craving something external to fill an internal gap? Awareness is everything. Because the truth is, none of these states are bad. You're going to cycle through them all sometimes in a single day. The key is knowing where you are, so you don't wake up wondering how you ended up saying yes to something that feels so wrong later. And if right now you're thinking, oh wow, I'm totally in a connected state and that's why I've been binge watching rom-coms and texting my ex all week, hey, no shame. Just awareness. That's power. Now, before we dive into how manipulators actually spot these states and use them against you right down to the exact words and behaviors they watch for, I want to ask you something. If this just gave you one of those, oh my gosh, that's me moments, go ahead and drop a comment sharing which energy state you've been living in lately. Trust me, you're not alone. And sharing it out loud is the first step to flipping the script. And if you're loving this little self-discovery roller coaster we're on, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Because up ahead, we're breaking down real-world case studies of how modern manipulators from social media influencers to dating app sweet talkers are using these states against people every single day. And most don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Stick around. This next part might just save you from making a very expensive mistake. Or, a very regrettable text at 2 a.m. Now it's time to really bring this home because nothing hits harder than seeing these manipulation tactics play out in real life. And trust me, once you hear these stories, you'll start replaying moments from your own life, thinking, hold up, was I just part of a con and didn't even realize it? Let's kick this off with one of the most infamous cases of modern emotional manipulation, the Tinder swindler. Oh yeah, you've heard the name. But this isn't just a wild Netflix story to binge over popcorn. This guy practically wrote the playbook on using the hormone, emotion, logic trap. Simon Leviev, real name Shimon Hayut, was out here convincing women he was a billionaire jet-setting diamond heir. And how did he pull it off? Simple. Step 1. He created emotional safety by making these women feel like they were the center of his world-fancy dinners, expensive gifts, private jets, all that dopamine flowing like champagne. Step 2. He triggered their adrenaline with a fake danger scenario. Remember that whole "my enemies are after me" storyline? Wild, right? But it worked because fear and excitement release the same chemical, noradrenaline. Step 3. He sat back and let their brains logically justify wiring him tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, he's a billionaire, he'll pay me back, right? Spoiler alert, he did not. Now, before you sit there thinking, well, I'd never fall for that, let me hit you with something closer to home. Ever been scrolling Instagram and seen those motivational influencer types with perfect abs and a perfectly curated kitchen, casually sipping on their $90 detox tea? And before you know it, You're at checkout wondering if this tea is the magic solution to your lifelong lack of motivation. That's modern manipulation at its finest. They don't sell you a product, they sell you a feeling. Drink this tea and you'll finally be that girl who wakes up at 5 a.m. and journals for an hour before yoga. Buy this course and by next month you'll be making 6 figures from your laptop on a beach in Bali. And even though your logical brain is in the back screaming, "This is probably a scam," your emotional brain is already daydreaming about sipping that overpriced mushroom latte on a sun-drenched balcony. Now here's another one that's dangerously underrated: the LinkedIn romance scam. I know LinkedIn doesn't exactly scream romantic hotspot, but hear me out. This one targets high-achieving, ambitious people folks who live in that collective or creative energy state. You're hustling, building your career, making moves. And one day, a message pops up from a charming executive at some impressive-sounding company. They don't hit you with romance right away. No, they start with networking. "I've been following your career. Your recent post really inspired me. I'd love to get your thoughts on an exciting new venture I'm working on." And just like that, they're in. Conversations turn personal. You feel flattered, seen, validated. And then comes the picture worse. The sob story. A sudden financial setback. A delayed project that's so close to launching if only they had a little short-term funding. And boom, before you know it, your emotional connection has led to a financial decision that your logical brain never approved. So, what's the big pattern here? It's never about the product, the danger, or even the sob story. It's always about creating just enough emotional momentum that you start filling in the logic yourself. And here's the really hard truth. This doesn't just happen to gullible people. It happens to the smartest, most successful people you know. Why? Because they're too busy to slow down and check their emotional state before making decisions. You think CEOs don't fall for this stuff? Oh, they do. Just ask the CFO of any company that's wired millions overseas thanks to a simple phishing email crafted with the exact same manipulation techniques. So, what's the lesson? Whenever something feels too good, too urgent, or too aligned with your dreams, that's the exact moment to hit the brakes. Ask yourself, is this really a logical opportunity, or am I just chasing a feeling? Am I reacting from my connected, creative, or collective state right now? If you can pause long enough to ask those 2 questions, you're already ahead of 99% of people out there. Now, speaking of being ahead, up next, I'm going to hand you the ultimate defense playbook: practical ways to spot manipulation in real time and stop it before it even starts. And trust me, this is the part you'll want to save and come back to every time you feel that emotional wave pulling you under. Stay with me, we're about to flip the script for good. We've talked about how you get pulled into the manipulation trap. Now let's talk about how to break free, or better yet, how to spot it before it even starts. And listen, this isn't about walking around paranoid, like everyone's out to get you. It's about being just aware enough to pause, assess, and calmly say, "Nice try, but not today, friend." The first tool in your mental defense kit is something I like to call the feel it, flag it rule. Here's how it works. Anytime you feel an emotion spike, whether it's excitement, flattery, fear, or even guilt, just mentally flag it. Doesn't mean you have to shut down the conversation or go full FBI interrogation mode. Just pause and think, whoa, I'm feeling something strong right now. Why? That simple pause gives your logical brain a chance to catch up before your emotions start sprinting off into the sunset. You know who's a master at this? Grandmas. Have you ever tried emotionally blackmailing a grandma? Doesn't work. You say, "But Grandma, everyone's going on this expensive trip." And she just looks over her glasses and goes, "And if everyone jumped off a bridge, would you do that too?" Boom, instant logic override. Be your own grandma, people. Second, let's talk about the magic question that shuts manipulators down immediately. Why are you telling me this? I know it sounds simple, but try it next time someone starts dropping just a little too much personal info or making a dramatic confession out of nowhere. That question forces them to either reveal their real intent or stumble over their words, trying to come up with something convincing. And you don't have to say it aggressively. You can just tilt your head, smile, and ask casually. The goal is to make them aware that you're paying attention now. Here's another technique, the 24-hour rule. If someone is pushing you to make a fast decision, whether it's buying something, helping with a crisis, or jumping into a relationship's low and all the way down, say, "Let me sleep on it." If it's a real opportunity, it'll still be there tomorrow. And if it's a manipulation tactic, well, they'll probably disappear faster than a bad date after you mention therapy and emotional maturity in the same sentence. I mean, let's be honest. When has rushing ever worked out well? That rushed Amazon Prime purchase at 2 a.m.? Regret. That rushed situationship? Big regret. That time you said yes to adopting a second cat because the shelter just posted him and he's so cute? Okay, fine. Maybe no regrets there. But you get the point. Now, I want to introduce you to the final and most powerful move. Reclaim the narrative. When you realize someone's trying to write your emotional story for you, making you feel guilty, obligated, or overly flattered, stop and flip the script. Instead of thinking, "They've been so nice, maybe I owe them," ask yourself, have they really done anything meaningful for me? Or have they just made me feel like they have? See the difference? One is based on facts. The other is built entirely on feelings they carefully curated for you. And trust me, once you start practicing this, manipulators will pick up on it fast. You'll become what I like to call manipulation resistant. They'll test you once, realize you're not easy prey, and move right along to someone else still stuck in the hormone emotion logic loop. All right. Take a deep breath because you've just officially graduated from Emotional Defense 101. But here's the real challenge. Now that you've learned how to defend yourself, how to turn this knowledge into long-term confidence? How do you make sure that next time, instead of just surviving these situations, you're walking away stronger, wiser, and totally unshakable? That's what we're diving into next. I'm going to show you exactly how to transform every painful manipulation moment from your past into a source of unstoppable personal power. Because surviving is good, but thriving? That's the real end game. Stick with me, this next part might just change the way you see every challenge you've ever faced. So, now you've got the basics down. Your emotional radar is on. You've learned to pause before handing over your heart and your wallet. But what about those next level situations? The ones where the manipulation is so subtle, it doesn't even feel like manipulation? That's when we break out the advanced moves. Let's start with something that trips up even the smartest people I know: emotional debt. You ever notice how manipulators rarely ask for something big right away? Nope, they start small. "Let me grab you a coffee." "Hey, I saw this and thought of you, just a little gift." Sounds harmless, right? But there's a catch. That tiny gesture isn't just kindness, it's the opening balance on the emotional credit card they're about to max out. Because next thing you know, that same person who bought you a $5 coffee is asking for a huge favor. And what's running through your mind? Well, they've been so nice to me lately. I guess I owe them. Congratulations. You've just been hit with the emotional invoice. And the payment they're asking for? It's always worth way more than the coffee. Listen, healthy people give without strings. Manipulators give just enough to make you feel like you're in debt. Here's the pro tip. Anytime you hear that little voice say, "I guess I owe them," stop right there. Ask yourself, did I agree to a transaction? Or did they just sneak one in without my consent? Now, let's talk about the reciprocity bomb. This is when someone does something really over the top for you, something you didn't ask for, and then drops a massive ask right after. Example, you're casually dating someone, and they show up at your door with concert tickets, flowers, and that dessert you casually mentioned loving 2 weeks ago. You're thinking, wow, this person is amazing. And then they ask you to meet their parents tomorrow. Or worse, move in. That's the reciprocity bomb. It's designed to overwhelm you emotionally so that saying no feels rude, even though you didn't ask for any of this in the first place. It's like someone handing you a 5-layer chocolate cake and then saying, "Cool, now you'll bake me a wedding cake, right?" Here's the lesson. Generosity without expectation is beautiful. But generosity that comes with invisible strings? That's manipulation, wearing a really fancy suit. Now, let's get into protecting your financial security because emotional manipulation and financial exploitation often hold hands like they're walking through a romantic comedy montage. One of the most dangerous phrases you can fall for is, "It's just a small investment." I'm sorry, but no life-changing, totally legitimate financial opportunity needs you to make a rushed, small investment today. That's the con artist equivalent of just the tip, and we all know how that ends. If it's a real opportunity, it will still be there tomorrow and next week. And guess what? Legitimate people respect when you want to take time to think it through. Manipulators? They disappear the moment you hesitate. So here's your advanced level mantra. If it feels rushed, it's probably wrong. If it feels like you owe someone something, ask who started the scoreboard. And if it sounds too good to be true, honey, it's probably wrapped in a shiny red flag with a free tote bag of regret. All right, take a deep breath. You've made it through the emotional battlefield and the financial minefield. But before we wrap this up, let's talk about the most important part. How do you take all these experiences, even the painful ones, and turn them into fuel for unstoppable confidence? Because protecting yourself is powerful, but learning to thrive after being manipulated? That's where the real magic happens. Stay with me. Let's close this out strong. Take a second and really let this sink in. You've just walked through the entire playbook that most people spend their whole lives getting blindsided by. Emotional traps, manipulative tactics, financial landmines. And you're standing here like a freaking Jedi master of personal boundaries. But here's the real flex. It's not about becoming cold or guarded. It's about walking through life with your eyes wide open, heart still warm, but mind sharp enough to know when someone's trying to sell you a fantasy wrapped in red flags. Look, we've all been there. If you've ever loaned money you knew you wouldn't get back, stayed in a situationship 2 months longer than you should have, or bought that ridiculously expensive life coaching webinar because the speaker just got you, congratulations, you're human. But today is different. Because now you have the awareness most people never reach. And that's not just power, that's freedom. So here's my final question for you. How would your life change if you started making decisions not from a place of guilt, fear, or impulse, but from a place of calm, confident clarity? Imagine what would happen if every time someone tried to push your emotional buttons, you just smiled and thought, "Nice try, but I'm writing my own story now." That's the version of you I want to see walking out of this video. Not hardened, not jaded, just fully in charge of who gets access to your time, energy, and yes, your wallet. If you felt something shift today, if even one light bulb went off, do me a favor and drop a comment below saying, "I choose logic over emotion." Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make is simply declaring that out loud. And hey, if this felt like the conversation you didn't even know you needed, hit that subscribe button and join our Limitless Confidence community. I promise, around here, we don't just talk about surviving, we talk about thriving. Now go out there, hold that head high, and remember manipulation only works on people who don't know their own worth. But you know better now. Until next time, stay sharp, stay kind, and maybe hide that credit card before you open Instagram again.